Well, it's an honor to introduce Congressman Mike Rogers, Republican in Michigan. How are you, sir?
Sir, I am doing well. I enjoy your show, by the way. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Now, give us a little bit of your background. You worked at the FBI and as a U.S. Army officer, right?
I did both. I had the great privilege to serve in the United States Army and served as a company commander before I left, and worked organized crime and public corruption in Chicago in the FBI. So I've been very fortunate and bring, I think, a different set of skills to Congress, and it's been a great experience.
No, the difference is you actually bring skills to Congress. That's a very positive thing. All right, I want to get down to this because this is terribly serious. So you go to Afghanistan, and tell me what you found out and how you found it out.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Select Committee on Intelligence, and part of my responsibility is to go do oversight of all our CIA and other 15 other agencies, including the FBI, and make sure they have the resources they need and the policies are in place to make them successful. So I regularly get overseas and have an opportunity to meet with our CIA case officers and our FBI agents and other intelligence officials doing great patriotic work in some really tough neighborhoods, and we ought to be all proud of them. And I decided to stop in the detention facility in Bagram, Afghanistan, and was a bit shocked to find out that we are Mirandizing enemy combatants that they pick up off the field, and it just shocked me. And what that means for most people, I think, understand that by watching TV, but we read them their rights and tell them they have the right to remain silent. They don't have to answer questions, and they can have the right to an attorney if they want one. I mean, it's staggering to me to think that somebody who leaves another country, comes to Afghanistan, and is put in some sort of a leadership position, and it may be a bomb maker, they're making IEDs, they're trying to coordinate attacks on our military units. So these are enemy combatants trained to kill U.S. soldiers in their version of combat situation, and we're reading them their rights when they're snatched up off the battlefield. I think this is a disaster, and I think it's, you think about the confusion, Mark, when you have a young soldier in the 82nd Airborne Division who we're going to send to Afghanistan and say, do the Lord's work here, and keep us safe here at home and get the bad guys, and they don't know if they got to treat that guy who's shooting at them like he is a criminal or a terrorist or an enemy combatant. We ought not to have that kind of confusion in a combat zone, and that's exactly what this administration did. And by the way, didn't tell anybody about it.
You know, I'm rarely for me, I'm almost speechless. I mean, this is so counterintuitive. It is so destructive of our military, of our national security, of our society to. I mean, if you're reading the Miranda rights, then you've got to pretty much open the door to the entire panoply of due process rights.
Well, exactly. They're treating these folks who are likely from another foreign country who came to Afghanistan like United States citizens. Those are the rights that we have, that we cherish, that we fought for, that many Americans died for. Those are uniquely United States rights. They are not the rights of the world. They don't belong to people who are trying to kill 18, 19, 20-year-old soldiers.
May I underscore that point? You worked at the FBI. I don't even understand the jurisdiction. We are in Afghanistan. That's not our country.
Right.
We capture, let's say, a terrorist or a Taliban type, a terrorist, whatever, same thing. We're reading the Miranda rights. It's not our country. We're there as guests. We are capturing these, and then we bring them. We're doing more. We're going way out of our way to drag them into the United States system. There is absolutely no basis for this.
I completely agree, and you can imagine my shock when I got there and found out they were doing it. And here's the good news of this. This wasn't, some FBI guy swaggering in, deciding they wanted to do this. It was very clear to me that they were uncomfortable in this role. They didn't really want to be there. So you have them in a room with CIA officers who are trying to get what's called actionable intelligence. You take that guy off the battlefield and you go, okay, pal, who is paying you to make that bomb? Or where did you get your bomb devices? Where is the compound where you guys are training and trying to kill soldiers so that they can go and move on that place? And so you can imagine everybody who's sitting in there. The FBI now has a different mission than the CIA in that case, right? They're trying to make a criminal case. And listen, I think there is nobody better than the FBI to make a criminal case. When they're on you and they're doing it right, they're going to get you. Just like they did the people who bombed the East African bombings. They put a case together. It took them 3 years, but they did it. That's the role of the FBI. This is completely different from that, completely. And it adds confusion for case officers, CIA officers, who are there operating undercover, right, so that they're protected in their next assignments. And now they have to sit in a room with an FBI agent who just read somebody their rights. Is that discoverable in a U.S. court of law? I don't know. And all of these questions they couldn't answer. I mean, this was clearly pushed out there. They're calling it the Global Justice Initiative to make the war on terror completely a law enforcement action. It's unfair, Mark, to send these young troops into Afghanistan in that kind of a confusing arena. I want soldiers to be soldiers. I want CIA officers to be CIA officers, and I want FBI agents to be FBI agents. And sometimes they just all don't mix. And I tell you, I think if they continue down this road, and they obviously were embarrassed enough not to want to tell anybody about it, that they are going to cause some harm, some confusion, some lack of cooperation, and maybe even ultimately cost the life of a soldier who doesn't know if he's supposed to be a policeman or an 82nd Airborne trooper.
Who is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee?
Sylvester Reyes from Texas.
Is Sylvester Reyes going to hold hearings on this, do you know?
Well, I hope so. We've asked for it. We're trying to ratchet up the chain here and get people to tell us, hey, what's going on? And there's already confusion. The senior FBI official said, no, this was coordinated with the agency officials. I talked to senior CIA officials, and they said, nope, it wasn't coordinated with us. I mean, what a horrible way to run a war. It just made me scratch my head. Pretty worrisome. And I hope we do get some hearings on it. I hope we get to the bottom of it soon, because I could see the tension in the room of all of these very dedicated law enforcement and intelligence officials wondering, what are we supposed to be doing? What do you want us to do here? And that is the wrong mission to send them on.
Did the Joint Chiefs, do we know if the Joint Chiefs signed off on this?
Well, we're still trying to find out. We know that it's at a Department of Defense facility, so we're trying to figure out what's going on. They have something that they rolled out called the the Global Pursuit, which is kind of connected to this global justice thing that the Department of Justice put out there. So
how about screw all the global stuff, Congressman? How about they have an American initiative? How about they protect everything that's in America? How about they start thinking? I know you're a patriot. These people, they don't think like we think, do they?
No, they don't. And and here's the good news. The folks on the ground, we ought not to be mad at them. Those agents and those officers in the room were still scratching their head trying to figure out how to follow orders. And it's up to us back here to say, hey, wait a minute, that's just not the right place for us to be. We better get this thing worked out. And you're right, they do think differently. And they think that we can treat this as a law enforcement event. And I argue when you have troops in combat, it is not a law enforcement event. And don't tell those young soldiers that it's somehow, they need to be policemen and evidence collectors. I want them to be soldiers and paratroopers and keep their units safe, keep those communities safe. And I want them to come home, and I don't want them to hesitate for 1 second to think, am I allowed to engage that person as an enemy combatant, or do I have to think about it and ask a lawyer and somebody's permission? I tell you the other thing that worries me. You've got these FBI agents they're trying to embed in these units, and if they're there as intelligence collectors, that's one thing. If they're there for prosecution reasons, I'm concerned. Does that mean when they go into an enemy compound? Here in the United States, we have a knock and announce rule where I had to knock on the door and say, FBI, I have a warrant to come in, and before I could go in the door. Well, you know what? That gets people killed in a combat zone. It makes no sense. And it sounds great in platitudes and speeches and all of that, but when its practical application means confusion and chaos in a combat zone, and that is not safety and security for not only our forces but us here at home.
Well, listen, you're doing a great thing. This is crucial. This is as bad as it gets. I mean, this is worse than pre 9/11. We never gave rights to terrorists like this before 9/11, and after 9/11, you'd think we would be screwing things down rather than weakening our defenses. This is a direct weakening of our defense. And all I can say is keep banging the pots and pans. I know you're not in the majority there. Keep it up, and you're doing a great job. And we will stay focused on this. And anytime you want to come on here with new news related to this, please let us know. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it very much. Best to you.
All right. Take care. That's Congressman Mike Rogers, Republican of Michigan, doing his job.